I want to continue to point out that Ethereum has had really a lackluster rebound. Again, we got those diversions going on between Bitcoin and Ethereum, which does happen at turning points. This channel on Ethereum going all the way back to 2022, and we're hitting the trend line right here. We're bouncing, but we're still at this resistance area from the peaks support. The support in here, this resistance area. This was support. Now it's resistance. And here you have it. We still may go up to the 100 period. We're not even above the 100 period moving average on Ethereum. Bitcoin is a lackluster recovery from the peak over here that we made in March when Bitcoin peaked. At that time, Bitcoin verged with Ethereum. Ethereum, upper window right here, it's not making new highs. It's not moved above the 2021 high. Bitcoin, in the lower window down here, it has. Well, just another problematic signal for Bitcoin. It's diverging longer term with Ethereum. Their divergences have marked turning points, tops or bottoms. So something interesting there. Now, again, Bitcoin's been down through the session. Still may end up trying to recover and still try to go to 68 or 69,000. I'll be talking about that in this video. Here in the weekly time frame, we're giving back last week's gains, at least so far. Again, I don't think we got a shot at going up. If NASDAQ can fill the gap at 20,400, which I believe it will, Bitcoin still may go up and hit the upper trend line as I've been talking about and reach 68 or 69,000. That's what I think is likely going to be the case. If we start seeing all my signals turn back to bearish, well, then maybe that's all she wrote. Talking about the divergence in the 4-hour time frame, how it still might form like a quadruple negative divergence. And we still might see a divergence develop on the RSI in the daily time frame, which we have not seen yet. We're above the 20-week moving average, bouncing off the 50 back over here, the green line, but you still have the 10 below the 20. Again, eventually I think this move will fail, will drop back below it. Maybe that's sooner rather than later. If I'm wrong about 68,000, 69,000. If I'm correct, we go up a little bit higher and then we turn, which I think will likely be the case. So we'll see which way it unfolds. Had this 3-week winning streak after a big 19.29% drop over here and a 29% sell-off over here. So again, I think that we'll actually come back down and take out this 50-week moving average, which we've been bouncing off of, along with Bitcoin's average price. And when you do that, that's the final nail in the coffin for Bitcoin. If, in fact, we see that happen and then the 20-week and the 10-week starts dropping below this 50-week moving average. We're about to close out the month, and I just want to show you the monthly chart. This is the monthly chart for Bitcoin. And again, right now we got to be able to clear this level, and so far we haven't been able to do it. When in the past, when you've cleared these levels, then you go off to the races. This overhead previous resistance off to the races, and then here again, when you break out, you just keep going. We haven't done that. We've stalled, although here you've stalled a little bit and then you went. So again, bulls have their work cut out for them. They haven't been able to do it so far. But if you notice here in the monthly time frame, and we're up 7.85% for the month again, we've moved off of the highs for a lot of, oh, wow, we closed up 8.85%, or recover more by the end of the session. It's even better than that. We're closing strong for the month. Problem is you keep having distribution. That's the problem. Here, a good rule of thumb is the 10-month moving average, and we're right at that right now, trying to bounce off of it at the moment. But again, when you're above it, good things are happening. Okay? When you're below it, bad things are happening. Started the bull market here, got above it, dropped below it for a little while, bad stuff started happening, rebounded, got back above it. Peaked in 2021. We ended up dropping back below it and staying below it until we got back above it. There was no recovery. Bring it up close. You can see the failed attempts to get above 69,000, this previous peak. That's what has to happen in order for the bull market to happen. Okay, right now we've come to the 10-month moving average here, the red line. We've taken it out. We tested it here, bounced. Took it out here, tried to bounce. Now we're just trying to bounce off of it again. Again, if you can get the traction and you can clear these levels of resistance, that's bullish. You eventually drop below this 10-month moving average like we did over here, and you stay below it and it acts as resistance, then bad stuff starts happening. Now we're up 7.84%. We'll see if we recover on the daily by the end of the session. The market apparently is attempting to recovery off of selling off during Powell's Q&A. So we'll see if Bitcoin attempts to recover. We are attempting to break the trend line here. We'll see what it looks like by the close. It will start a reversal here, or we'll get one more push higher and then start a reversal. But I don't think you're going to have the UPTOBER that everybody's looking for. I think you're going to have the SHOCKTOBER, and people are going to be like they were in 2021 in shock when Bitcoin starts to collapse. When we got the rate cuts in 2001 and 2007, for about 3.5 weeks. 4 weeks in 2007, a little bit longer, 19 sessions, 17 in 2021. Market turned and it collapsed, starting to price in the recession. 2001, it had already peaked, counter trend. In 2007, it peaked again about 3.5 weeks after the rate cuts. It began to collapse and it dropped 20.5% over the next 6 or 7 weeks or so. The market begins to price in recession, so will Bitcoin. That's what people are missing, is that we're about to have a recession and people are too busy daydreaming about themselves, wandering through their mansion, and driving all their sports cars. They're paying attention to what's going on. Now look, if my signals, which are correct, all begin to turn back to bullish in the weekly time frame, then Bitcoin can go higher. Is it going to do that with recession coming? That's the $64,000 question. The stock market rebounding, closed with Powell here. If Bitcoin attempts to do the same thing, again, I still think you could come up to the 68,000, 69,000 area. I could be wrong about that, but I have the guts to tell you what I think. And again, I think that the RSI could still form a divergence in doing so. We have it on other indicators. We still may see something like that on the RSI in the daily time frame. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the chart, if you like the indicators, then support the channel. Follow the link below to take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want or make it a recurring donation. If you do that, I thank you. I don't have any sponsors. I'm not going to send you to a bunch of exchanges that want to get you leveraged up and wipe you out. So I turn all these offers down. They contact me all the time, sponsor my channel. And again, I just ask that you just have a direct relationship with me and do what you can to help out. So please support the channel today. Now, we just had Powell speak. And again, trying to reassure everybody that they're cutting rates for all the right reasons. But the markets are down, Bitcoin down right now. They were down before Powell, but stronger with Powell. They're Dow dropping nearly 400 points, trying to recover right now after Powell wrapped up. But they're selling off because Powell is, let me say it this way, Powell is disappointing markets in that they want more aggressive rate cuts. Powell is saying, hey, there's going to be 2 more cuts, quarter-point cuts, so 50 basis points more for the balance of the year. Markets wanted 3/4. They wanted another 1%. They're addicted to stimulus. And the Fed still has an inflation problem. They can't drop rates down to nothing. Inflation will come roaring back. But now concerns that the Fed is on a path to slower 25 basis point cuts. Powell suggesting there won't be aggressive cuts. Now, that could change, and again, we're going to see more and more economic data pointing towards recession. Markets will begin to top, begin to reverse, and begin to start ushering in bear markets. And the Fed will probably pick up the pace of the rate cuts. Not going to drop the rates down to nothing right now. That's the conventional wisdom. Oh, the Fed's just going to drop rates, and QE's coming back, and Bitcoin's going to go to 500,000 overnight. Just with reality, and we're not going to have this recession, the soft landing out of the Fed, and happy days are here again. And that's why, again, in other times you didn't have recession. You had artificial stimulus, aggressive artificial stimulus, and the Fed can't do that right now. The Fed needs, he's talking about a path to his 2% target level for inflation. The Fed is not going to get there. They need a recession to correct the inflation problem to get down to the 2% target level. Bitcoin, again, selling off. I told you in my last update over the weekend that the divergence was developing on indicators. We're now seeing that play out. We're breaking the trend line. Bitcoin right now, after Powell speaking, down about 3.5% or so. But I told you to be watching a couple of trend lines here. I've got the trend line back from this low, connected to the low here, excluding the shadows, connected to the low here. We're breaking that decisively with the Monday session. Our divergences are playing out. Dropping back below the 10 period, the red line. We're dropping back below the 200 period moving average. There's still the possibility still reach the upper channel line and reach 68 or 69,000, lose the 200 and stay below it, and then start losing the 100 period. Odds become less likely. Again, I told you that right here, we probably going to push above that high, which we in fact did. We might pull back and do it, or we might just try to do it immediately. We kind of went sideways at the 200 and pushed up above it, but it's a head fake. It's to suck in these people that are telling us, oh, we're going to have UPTOBER, and that we now have a higher low, and a higher high, and the downtrend's broke. The downtrend is not broke. And you still got to clear this trend line, the March peak, from the March peak over here, this downward trend line. And again, still might hit it again. Again, Bitcoin likely peaked back over here. I continue to believe Bitcoin is going to price in recession. That's the difference right now. We're going to have a recession. The Fed won't allow that. Yes, they will. They need it. They need it to deal with the inflation problem. Powell's telling us we're going to have a soft landing. He has to say that. He knows we're going to have a recession. He said it right now in his Q&A. Soft landing, soft landing. We're not having a soft landing. The recession indicators are predicting we're going to have a recession. But Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, she said we're going to have a soft landing. It's a bunch of propaganda. Not going to have a soft landing. We're going to have a recession. How's Bitcoin going to have a bull market if we're going to have a recession? Explain this to me. It's just a bunch of fun. Well, why are the recession indicators that have been accurate, that constantly have proven themselves over and over, predicting recession after recession, like the Psalm rule being triggered with the unemployment rate, the uninverting of the yield curve? Why are these signals all predicting recession? The experts are telling us, oh, no, we're going to have this soft landing. Institutions sell into the rally as the money continues to sell Bitcoin with distribution over and over. We were told none of this was going to happen. We were told we're on our way to 100,000. Here we go. Not. In order for Bitcoin to turn back to bullish, you got to turn the weekly charts back to bullish. You got to break this downward trend line. You got to clear the resistance zone here from this peak, with the peaks over here. And again, the previous resistance zone back up at March and April over here. You got to be able to clear these levels. Then you got to be able to get back above 69,000, stay above 69,000, and never drop back below it again through the duration of the bull market. Had 8 failed attempts. The bulls have made 8 failed attempts to get us above 69,000. Do it again. Okay, but right now we're breaking this trend line, so there's risk that the move might be done. Signals all begin to turn back to bearish. I warned you in my last update about the divergences. I warned you the divergences in the 4-hour time frame. They were warning we were going to get a pullback. Now, we still might try to pull back and go higher, but it also might be the start of a larger reversal. Again, divergence playing out here. Warned you about the divergence here with momentum here in the daily time frame. Again, we had some warning signs that a possible pullback or reversal could begin sideways, and we had another little topping signal here. We went a little bit higher, and then now we're pulling back. Still may reach this upper boundary of the trend line, 68 or 69,000, but right now the impulse line is turning back to red with the breaking of the trend line. We're still green at this point, but the session's not over yet, and again, we could see the bars begin to turn red and more bearish signals, but the impulse line at this moment right now, coin hovering down about 3.5%, is turning red. Turn red on pullbacks like right here, and then turn right back. If we get a bigger downward move, your downward swing move can remain red and remain that way. Again, the impulse line is more sensitive than the momentum line, but it is turning bearish with this bar and the breaking of the rising trend line. These divergences, we still may get another divergence in the more recent price action here on some of the other indicators, even here with momentum, get another reference point. Nasdaq goes up and fills the gap at 20,400 still, which I think it probably will. Bitcoin still may try to go up and hit the upper channel line and reach 68 or 69,000 unless we see all the signals turn back to bearish and remain that way. At the moment, again, right here, this is bars reflecting momentum. The bars reflecting the trend, still bullish. The bars reflecting momentum at the moment, still bullish. Again, I warned you, we had warning signs. We had that topic signal as we went sideways there at the 200 period, went a little bit higher. Got the warning sign of a potential pullback or reversal right here. We're getting a red arrow with this bar and the breaking of the rising trend line. I'll show you the trend lines in just a moment. Balance of power is still positive, but again, if momentum flips, we can get a pullback and then go up one more time and form a divergence on some other indicators. The RSI had moved to a new high. Two other indicators, we could still see that happen, but if we start seeing everything start turning back to bearish, the risk is that that's all she wrote. So we'll be watching to see if balance of power goes negative, watching to see if more sell signals happen. Momentum flip, or do we flip momentum and the trend both? Trend signals are still bullish here. You got the cloud still bullish. This little line right here represents the swing move right here. That's still bullish. The swing trend signals on the other chart, they're still bullish at the moment. Now we did see pulse line turn bearish, reflecting momentum here. The blue line is the momentum line. So far that has not changed. That doesn't mean it won't. And again, we are getting the red arrow there too, and a little black X saying, hey, possible short-term top here, just as we got the red circle, as I shared in my last update. So if we see more momentum signals turn bearish like the momentum line here, and again, we are getting some here, again, the X and the little arrow there. We'll be watching, do we get a pullback or do we start a reversal? If we start a reversal, signals will all begin to turn bearish and then remain that way, and we'll get a bigger drop back below the 100 period moving average, and not be able to get back above it. Say we still may reach 68,000 or 69,000 and come up a little bit higher and hit the downward trend line. Why? Because you could still form a multiple point divergence here, and exactly what we did over here. You had this initial divergence form right here, gave you a sell-off, you rebounded up to new high, it formed a larger divergence, that gave us another sell-off, back down, and then we pushed on higher for yet even another reference point of a divergence. You had a multiple point divergence here. Really one even in the most recent price action there at the very end, where you had this little tiny divergence. But again, really the whole thing ended up being like a quadruple negative divergence with these smaller divergences within it. That gave us that 29% sell-off in 8 days. That powerful divergence. Here you have a divergence that formed right here that gave us a little bit of a pullback, kind of a choppy sideways move. You ended up turning back up and you got a higher high. And then now we're seeing this sell-off right here. So you have this multiple point, this triple divergence. It could be we sell off and we come back up, as I've talked about in my last update. It could be we come back up to 68 or 69,000 and get yet another reference point of a divergence very similar to what we had over here. Could be. Doesn't have to play out that way. If signals all start turning bearish, now you still have your 50 above the 200. The 200 is a black line, the 50 is a green line, and pring parameters still in positive territory. But I talked about these divergences in my last video, and I told you we were going to get some kind of sell-off. I'll be watching. Do we start a reversal, or do we just pull back and end up going a little bit higher? And if NASDAQ goes a little higher, NVIDIA goes a little bit higher, Bitcoin might. Got to remember, Bitcoin is leading the charge. When we had the downtrend, the Fed, it was Bitcoin that led the charge and broke higher. Again, Bitcoin could lead. It could start turning down for the stock market or before NVIDIA. Again, I think it's possible that we fill the gap at 20,400 on NASDAQ. I've talked about this at great length and detail. We do. I think NASDAQ's already peaked, but I think it will set up a lower high. Then Bitcoin still may try to go a little bit higher. We'll see what happens. And it could be, we start going higher in October. Everybody goes, oh, it's October, here it is. And then, boom, the big rug pull happens. Again, Bitcoin's going to turn bullish. The bulls have to prove themselves and get above all these resistance levels. Flip my signals, my weekly signals, which are correct, back to bullish. They haven't been able to do it. Same people that told us the sell-offs that we've seen since March weren't going to happen. No possible way. Now they're telling us, oh, it's over. It's over. That's what they've been saying over and over again. Well, if it's over, then they got to prove themselves. If my signals turn back to bullish in the weekly time frame, I'll turn back to bullish. You got to be able to dodge a recession. You got to be able to have the dollar completely collapse in order for Bitcoin to have a bull market right now. That is highly unlikely that we're going to avoid a recession. People don't want to hear truth about recession, but it is coming, and reliable recession indicators are telling us so. We had the divergence on the MACD along with the RSI. I talked about this in my last update in great length and detail. Those signals are now playing out. The question is, will they produce a reversal, or will they produce a pullback? Do they produce a pullback like what we had over here, and then we go get another thrust higher and form a larger divergence, or do they start a reversal? That's a $64,000 question. Now, if we just start selling off sharply, and drop below the 200, then eventually Pring's going to come down here and go negative and validate reversal. So right now we're losing the 50, but we're still above the 200 here. So again, we'll be watching to see if we can get some kind of traction back up, or even go a little bit lower. And then get some traction back up. But again, that is still a possibility. It is not a requirement. Just because I'm talking about it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Just because I told you, hey, I think Bitcoin can go reach 68 or 69,000 doesn't mean it has to. The signals are starting to shift with momentum. If they flip and we start seeing trend signals turn bearish, then maybe that's all she wrote. I think that with this UPTOBER business, still might get another fake out move with it, but I think it's highly unlikely that we'll see new highs. The Fed rate cuts are not going to be able to prevent a recession. The Fed rate cuts are probably to be unable to goose Bitcoin higher. Very unlikely. Now, I talked about this horizontal resistance. We got above it. Again, it could just be that we're getting a fake out return, but my guess is that we're probably still going to come up here. I have the guts to tell you what I think. Again, I could be wrong about that, but I think that we could still come up here, and again, we'll be watching to see how we close by the close at the trend line. You could breach a trend line, and I'll show you my trend lines in a second here. You could breach a trend line and still end up closing above it. I just pull up my trend lines here. I love these trend lines. I've been showing you these trend lines over and over. Now, we saw the RSI move slightly higher than the previous peak. We still may see a divergence develop. Every single peak on this channel has formed a divergence at a top. We don't have that yet on the RSI. We do have it with momentum. We do have it with a few indicators. We don't have it with the RSI, so we still may get it. Back up at the top, we had the divergence over here. We sold off. We rallied back up. We got a divergence here. Sold off. We rallied back up. Got another lower high, series of lower highs here forming this divergence. Formed the bullish divergence down here. We got the rebound over here. We got the bearish divergence here. At the July peak. After that July low, we rallied up, and then we sold off to the August low. So again, we've seen these divergences. Then we have this bullish divergence. If we exclude the shadows, this low was slightly lower than this low, and that has given us this rally back up. Now, the trend lines are fascinating, and again, the last one that we broke here, we had this downward trend line right here, and we broke it. Climbed above the 50, climbed above the 100, climbed above the 200 period moving average, and then we came up and we moved just above this high, just above that high, and then dropped now back below the 200. It may be before the session ends, or the trend line changes slightly, but it still may be that we come up into this area right here. Now look, when I say about breaching the trend line, look at right here. We had this trend line right here. We sold off during the session, but by the end of the session, we recovered back above it. I don't know that it plays out that way. It may not. It may be we start a reversal when these trend lines have broken. And these sell-offs, we broke it over here, we got a sell-off. We broke this trend line, we got a sell-off. We broke this trend line, we got a sell-off. We broke this trend line, we got a sell-off. We broke this trend line, we got a sell-off. So it may be that's all she wrote. Just pointing out there's no divergence on the RSI. There still may be. This chart, I'm just connecting this low from here, right here, and this low right here. As I talked about on my other chart, just bring this up, we can exclude the shadows here a little bit, and again, you've got a solid breach. If we include the shadows, well, maybe not so fast. If we take it down from the shadow right here, look at that right there. Again, maybe we attempt a recovery, or maybe, again, this trend line right here, we end up rebounding back above it. But if I include the shadow right here, and if the shadow from these lows, then again, we're coming right down towards the trend line. If I exclude the shadows, we're breaching the trend line decisively. So again, and then again, if I just take it from this low to this low, you've got a much bigger penetration of the trend line at a steeper angle of ascent. So again, just some trend lines I'm paying attention to. Let's just include the shadow here for a moment and say that we rebound off of this area and end up forming a divergence. And again, this is the trend line we're watching. You see this red trend line from the March peak. You come on down here, you connect the dots, and again, I'd be looking at the 68, 69,000 if we overthrow it, this area on in here. Still think that's a possibility. If all my signals begin to turn back to bearish, momentum turns and starts changing the trend signals, then forget it. Again, the conventional wisdom is that we have this bull flag, and the people that told us all these sell-offs were not going to happen, they're now telling, oh, no, it's a bull flag, it's a bull flag. And they're telling us we're supposed to have these rallies back in March and April, and we were supposed to be on our way to 100,000 and already there in 2021. We've had these sharp declines that ended up being 1/3 of 33% decline in Bitcoin's total value from the high down to the low. We've recovered. We're back up here, recouping some of those losses now, but you've got a problem. Weekly signals are bearish. Recession's on the horizon, but we're being told, no, we have this bull flag. Well, again, I've talked about this bull flag. This is the weekly chart of Bitcoin, and this is our current bull flag right here. Well, you got a problem. Other bull flags have set up at major tops. Back over in 2021, we peaked. We had a sharp drop. Everybody said, oh, it's a bull flag. It's over. And we had a rally, and then we ended up tanking even further. The bottom fell out of Bitcoin. And a bull flag over in the first peak in 2021. You had it over here after the new bull market started. 2019, oh, it's a bull flag. Here we go. And then we sank by 71% from that high in the pandemic. A bull flag in 2017 at the 2017 top. It's a bull flag. And we tried to break out, and you ended up dropping 84% in totality. You had a bull flag at the 2013 top. Tried to break out, and boom, we ended up selling off even more. But historically, you have had bull flag patterns. And I'm not picking on the bull flag pattern. There are other legitimate bull flags. There's a bull flag right here that played out very nicely. You had a series of bull flags over here. And again, the bull flag is a legitimate pattern. It's a continuation pattern. But the problem is that you get these bull flags that set up, end up failing. No chart pattern is perfect. Chart patterns can fail. In each case, you've seen these bull flags at these tops. Even in the bull cycle right here, bear market, the end of the bull markets and starting of the bear market cycles there. So this very well could be. I know the conventional wisdom, oh, it's a bull flag. Here we go. It's October. If my signals, which are correct in the weekly time frame, all begin to turn back to bullish, I'll turn back to bullish. But I don't think you're going to be able to do that with the recession on the horizon. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. If this was the bear market and it's over, it's the weakest bear market Bitcoin has ever had. The last one we had was 84%. Prior to that, 86%. The one before that, the first bear market with Bitcoin was 93%. The bear markets are 80 and 90%. This was 78%. And again, the conventional wisdom is this is the new bull market. And it's about to resume, and it's going to be on into 2025. And again, let me just say this. If we end up reversing, bear market could have never ended. You could have what's called an expanded flat, where you come up and you move just above the high over here at 69,000, and it fails, and then you come back and you take out the low over here at 15,000. That's called an expanded flat. And then you bottom out. And you get your new bull market. It could be that the bear market never ended. Oh, that's unpopular to say. If my signals turn back to bullish, then off to the races. Here we go to the moon. You have to stay that way, and you've got to stay above 69,000. If this ends up being a top, then the risk is that we come back down, we break this longer-term trend line right here, and we start moving down all the way down towards 15,000. That's the risk right now. Uptober end up being Shocktober, shocking everybody because, again, just like back over here, the conventional wisdom back over in 2021 was there's Bitcoin's never dropping below 60,000 again. Bitcoin was going to be at 100,000 before the year ended. That's a conventional wisdom. Bitcoin's going to break out and it's just going to start soaring here. Uptober, and then we're going to have Moonvember, and then we're going to have Bullcember, you know, and that's the conventional wisdom right now. There's a conventional wisdom back over here too that we're going to be at 100,000 by October, November, December 2021, and Bitcoin peaked in November of 2021, and it began to turn down sharply. Everybody believed there's no possible way Bitcoin wasn't going to be at 100,000. Got all the beautiful cycle drawings and all the, you know, connect the dot measurements that, oh, Bitcoin's going to, you know, 200, 300, 400,000. I'm not saying Bitcoin won't eventually go back into a bull market. I'm just saying it's risk right here, flipping back to bullish, but turning back, dropping back down, and having the bearish weekly charts remain bearish. That's the risk right here. Conventional wisdom and the consensus, it's the same as it was back over here. You got, oh, we got the cup with the handle, and here's the people that told us this was never going to happen. Here we go. All I'm trying to say is my signals right now are bearish in the weekly time frame. If they turn back to bullish, then the bulls are back in power. If they don't, then the bears are back in power, and we're at risk of going back down and selling off because of a coming recession.